Ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited because I'm going to finally answer the question of how much shotgun ammunition you should be carrying in your primary shotgunner's loadout, okay? There's been a lot of examples on YouTube. Some people are military, were military. Some people are police, were police, or something like that. But the numbers all over the place. So with some educated guessing and some comparisons, I came out with the number. And I'm going to take you through my thought process here. But what we're going to compare it to is the standard infantry loadout, which is 210 rounds and 7 magazines in your AR. So 6 on body, 1 in the gun. So I have 3 bases of comparison: weight, size, and then the time-based comparison, which is pretty interesting. But when we get there, I'll explain it. But first, the weight. So by weight, 30 rounds of 5.56, which is the standard capacity on an AR-15, is 12 ounces. Most people say that, like say 6 to 8 shells are going to be the same as a 30 round mag on an AR. But if we look at the weight, the one that's the closest is 7 shells. So they're not wrong when they say 6 to 8. But obviously we don't want to overburden ourselves with too much weight. And in a weight comparison, 7 shells is very close to 30 rounds. So as it pertains to weight, we're just going to stick with the number 7. 7 shells is the same as 30 rounds of 5.56. Okay. Size. Actual physical size. A lot of people with the 7 shell shot guard are using an M4 mag pouch because it is physically the same size, width and height and depth. So size and weight, 7 shells is looking like our number. Or a 7 shell shot guard is going to be the same as a 30 round 5.56 mag. So let's do some math here. 210 rounds of 5.56 equals 7 AR mags. 7 AR mags equals 7 shell shot guards. 7 shell shot guards is going to be 49 shells. Now, I could end the video there, but I got to be curious. So I did something at the range. So I wanted to see how fast I can, let me back up a little bit. I wanted to see how fast I could shoot that standard infantry loadout and see like how fast I can get rid of those bullets just dumping it, right? So 210 rounds, and this obviously including reloads. I have to reload, so including reloads, that took me 70 seconds. 70 seconds to get rid of 210 rounds. Okay, now I said, let me take that 70 seconds and see how many shells I can put down range with my shotgun. And I did it in 2 methods. Method number 1, I have the shotgun, actually the shotgun's always full, no matter which method. Shotgun's full, have my side saddle on there. So I shot the gun until it was dry, and then I just continued to port load after that, whether I had the SOE chest rig or the side saddle. I just kept going, and I got to 30 rounds. I'm like, okay, let me try something different. I shot the gun until it was dry. I port loaded and then make sure the magazine tube was completely full. And I did it that way, and I got to 30 rounds. So no matter which way I did it, in 70 seconds, I was only able to shoot 30 rounds on the shotgun. And I show you guys that here. 70 seconds, 30 shells, okay? Now, we're going to skip the AR part, but let's look at the fire rate of the shotgun. So if we take into account the reloads, right? My firing rate in that 70 seconds averages out to 1 shell every 2.3 seconds, okay? And that means I got 9 projectiles. Obviously, if I'm shooting my SMB buckshot, right? I'm getting 9 projectiles per 2.33 seconds. Cool. But on the AR, I got a fire rate of 3 rounds per second. So in 2.33 seconds, I'm getting 7 projectiles, which is interesting. So obviously, I'm shooting way less rounds and I'm doing way less trigger pulls. But if we compare the projectiles downrange in the same time frame, I got 9 projectiles per 2.33 seconds, while the AR has 7 projectiles every 2.33 seconds. And guess what? The AR is out of ammo, but the shotgun isn't. I still have, if we're doing the 49 number, 19 shells to go, which I think is going to take an additional 44 seconds if I did the math right, okay? So our conclusion, I'll get to the YouTuber loadouts here in a minute. Hold on, okay? My conclusion is this. Standard infantry loadout. Okay. Let's go back to the military real quick. There are two people on YouTube. One of them is Travis Haley. The other one is, Modern Tactical Shooting. They had a complaint against 5.56. They said, I had to put 5 rounds in one combatant to get him down with 5.56. That's pretty interesting. So a lot of people are like, oh, 210 rounds is more than 49. But they consistently were complaining that 5.56 was anemic. And they had to put 5 rounds into a combatant to get him down. That is realistic. And that's actually what happened. GWAT Alchemist, which is another YouTuber, backed that up. So, I started thinking to myself, 210 rounds of 5.56 divided by 5 trigger pulls per combatant is only 42. So technically speaking, if every combatant that you come across requires 5 pulls of the trigger of an AR-15, that's only 42. That's 42 combatants. So 49 is more, because we know that if at anywhere from 0 to 100 yards, if you get 9 pellets of buckshot, you're gonna stay down. That's 9 projectiles. 9 is definitely more than 5, last time I thought. Obviously, again, I mean, we can play all day about range, but I just thought that was a very interesting perspective. So, if you play within your range and you use your weapon the way it's supposed to be used, guess what? 49 shells minimum, I think it's gonna work out for you, okay? So, obviously, 5.56 is not a specialty round. It is just an anti-personnel round. That's what people use to take down other individuals, okay? So 49 shells of double-up buckshot is the minimum loadout, including shells in and on the gun. And again, this is for anti-personnel usage, okay? So what about slugs? How much slugs should you carry? I mean, they could be used for anti-personnel. Some of them can be used for anti-material, and I'll get to that in a minute. And also, they add range to your weapon system. So how much should you have of that? That's a pretty interesting question. Not too sure, because it all depends on your mission, right? This is where a lot of the YouTubers go wrong, where they want to talk to you about, oh, I have this loadout, so I can do this, this, and this, and this, and this. But they never state the mission. But I will say, if you are only having to deal with people, combatants, okay, I would say double-up buckshot is going to be fine. What about birdshot? Nowadays, we have to deal with drones, and maybe you can use birdshot for breaching, so that way you don't waste your buckshot or your slug or whatever, because there's been some cowboys out there that will use buckshot or slugs to just breach a door, and I'm like, that's a bit excessive. So maybe you want to keep some birdshot for some drones to take them down. Drones are abundant, let's be honest. So do you want 49 shells of birdshot if you're taking down drones only? Again, it depends on the mission. Or maybe you want to have 49 shells of double-up buck and then just add maybe 10 slugs and 10 birdshot. Up to you, okay? Well, 49 shells of double-up buck should be your minimum. Okay. Don't overload yourself with weight. You need to carry mission essential gear, and you may be required to carry a pistol. Okay? I'm hoping that this minimum, because this is exactly what it's going to be, this minimum, I hope is going to help you not stack crazy amounts of shells on your body. You still need to move. You still need to maneuver. You always need to stay maneuverable. Again, maybe you're required to run a pistol, okay? And that leads into a bonus question. Should you carry a pistol if you're rocking 49 rounds, which is your standard loadout, okay? Because the standard infantry has 210 rounds and no pistol. If no pistol, should you have more than 49 shells? Should you have 100 shells? Those are my 2 bonus questions there. And we can go deeper into that realm, but I think 49 shells is going to be a very good minimum to start out with. Okay, so that way you don't overburden yourself. And if anybody has seen the shotgun equipment video that I made, the first video of this channel, I have 24 shells on my SOE chest rig, and then I have 25 shells on the 511 Flex shotgun pouch, and that's my 49, and that's not including in the gun. So Last thing we're going to share is going to be the YouTubers. How much ammo did they pick for their loadouts? And you're going to have to find these videos. And obviously, all of these YouTubers are going to get a shout out. They're going to get a shout out right now. But number one shout out, very important, because that's my dude. That's my guy. Okay? G1 Alchemist. He did 110 rounds. That is not including the amount of ammunition he had in the shotgun. But he had 45 slugs, 40 buckshot, and 25 number 4 bird. Pretty interesting. Modern Tactical Shooting. Now, this guy actually ran a shotgun primary while he was in Iraq. He said 65 shells total. He only had 2 slugs, which was one in the chamber and one in the first in the magazine too. So basically the 2 slugs went out and then the rest was buckshot. That's how he did it, okay? So total was 65, and that was including the shotgun. And I believe he did have a pistol with him. Trench grenade says 100 rounds total. That's including what's in the shotgun, and he also had a pistol. Pretty interesting. That is going to be basically double the weight of the standard infantry load, but prepared. I think he had some in a backpack. Now, James Reeves goes over, his loadout with his 1301 that he ran at Thunder Ranch, and he was 57 shells total, and that's including the shells in the shotgun. Louis Tactical, that guy knows how to run a shotgun, but I counted in his loadout was 32 shells total, and that was including the shotgun. Now, Last Huntsman Outdoors, there was 2 guys in the video, but the main guy who rocks the YouTube channel, he did 58 shells plus, and that's including the shotgun. Blue Jean Operator, he had 50 shells in his loadout, and I'm pretty sure that was without including, that was in the shotgun. If you're wondering why I'm like, hey, how much did he have in the shotgun? I don't know how much these shotguns carry and if they were modified to carry more. And sometimes they never showed the side saddle on whatever, or never showed the shotgun. They just showed the rig, okay? Gunner Run 13, he's not a big channel or whatever, but he had 75 rounds total, and that was including the ammunition in the shotgun. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Obviously, it varied. And I'm not saying that all these guys are wrong, but there was no metrics when they showed off their rig. And that's why I'm making this video, to show that the metrics I went by, giving you my answer. And I say 49 shells. So in my current rig, I have 12 shells on the shotgun, okay? And then I have 24 on the chest, and then I have 25. Oh my God. I want to say that's 61. I think that's 61. If I'm wrong, type it in the comment section. Say, hey, you cannot math. But it's fine. But yeah, that's my standard loadout that I have, which is a lot closer to what Modern Tactical Shooting was, which is 65. And he carried it as a primary. So again, hopefully this helps out everybody on YouTube. Or if you just want to learn, or if you just want to argue, comment, keyboard warrior. It don't matter. But for the people who are running primary shotgun, this right here is a pretty good basis of comparison. Again, weight, size. I did a time-based comparison, and then I did live data from people who've actually had to shoot people and take them down. By the way, Modern Tactical Shooting also had the same problem when he went to 9mm. He figured out that most times when he had to shoot somebody, he had to pull the trigger 5 times to get them down. Meanwhile, when he was rocking a 1911, he only had to shoot 2. So 5.56 and 9mm tend to have the pretty same problem here. But shotguns, they don't, because you have so many projectiles going down range with one squeeze of the trigger. So I think 49 is your number. If you liked it, hit the like, subscribe, comment down below. Before you watch this video, what were you going to do in your rig? Share with me below, and I always comment back, all right? You guys have a blessed day.